GTM Podcast Buddhist Knowledge Mini Series The 38th Blessing. We have come to the fourth part of Blessing 1, which is gonna be the conclusion. From the last episode, we learned how to recognize the fools, what characteristic or what kind of a person they are. Today, we will learn about how to avoid them, because their influence could also affect the way we live our life, the way we think, the way we speak, and the way we act. So, how can we put the fool in the quarantine? Well, in the words of the old Thai proverbs, always keep a safe distance. Give a hound an arm's length. Give a monkey 6 feet. But for a fool, 100,000 miles may not be enough. Just as mentioned earlier, when a person has such a dangerously contagious disease as faulty discretion, we have no alternative but to isolate them. However, as we shall see, it is not physical distance which we use to isolate a fool. It is more on the level of interaction. We have to be careful getting too familiar with them. That is effectively how we keep psychological distance. When we talk of associating with others, what the limits of our definition? In fact, there are 7 different ways in which it is possible to associate with others. 1. Meeting up of fools. This can be called associating with fools, but it is only association in its most rudimentary form. Of course, such association might not lead to anything. After all, it is just our visiting them and their visiting us. We may not particularly enjoy each other's company. 2. Getting closer. This is once you start getting more familiar with the fools you meet up with. Start lending things to one another, talking on subjects of common interest, and following common pastime. 3. Feeling a liking for one another. This is one start to get more familiar. You start to believe that you have common tastes. You start to believe that you yourself like anything that they like. 4. Respecting them. After a while, you start to find that you respect that fool for his particular skill, for example, his skill in gambling. And you start to think what good luck it is to have this fool as your acquaintance and example to follow. 5. Moral support. After having admired the fool for a long time from a distance, you start to believe anything they think. 6. Joining in. After sharing the same opinion for a long time, you start to join in with their activities and follow the same way of life. 7. Influencing and instilling behavior to one another. In the final stage of association, it is impossible to tell the difference between the fool and his associates. It has also come to the stage when it is impossible to reverse the effects of the fool on his associate. Thus, for any listener who realize that they are under the influence of a fool, they should also realize too the danger of even casual contact with the personality of someone who is a fool. There will be an unavoidable escalation of intimacy even without realizing it. So how to practice non-association in everyday life? If you want to avoid associating with fools in your everyday life, apart from avoiding social contact with fools, as already mentioned, it will be necessary to give special attention to the following issues. 1. Prohibit yourself from every sort of evil and from all the roads to ruin. Don't go thinking that the odd game of poker among close friends or just to keep your hand in can surely be of no harm to anybody. Prohibit yourself right from the start. This way you will save yourself from tears in the long run. Even if you are someone with weak tendency in the direction of being a fool, such as liking to get up late and ignoring the alarm clock you have set for yourself, you should get tough with yourself right from the start. Prohibit yourself from doing even the most minor unwholesome deeds. 2. Make the break from any evils you may have committed in the past. It doesn't matter what sort of bad habits you might have had in the past. Don't give yourself even the smallest chance to relapse. Don't even speak of those things anymore. 3. Make your performance of good deeds continuous. There is no need to think over your past failure or entangle ourselves in the queue of your past bad deeds. Starting from today, you must practice generosity, observing the precept, and meditate continuously. In this way, the scars left on our own way of life will be gradually healed, leaving only good behavior in its place. 4. In the case you have to associate with a fool, be especially careful. Sometimes we are put in the situation where we have to associate with fools, even though we don't want to. Sometimes, for example, we find that even our own boss is involved in the corruption. If we refuse to have any part in his dealings, we might get sacked. What should we do in such situation? If we do everything he orders, in the end, we will pick up his bad habits. Our ancestor had a simile for warning us in such a situation. They said you should be careful, as if you were warming yourself before the fire. You stay too close to the fire for too long, you will get burned. If you keep too much distance, then you will be left shivering in the cold. Thus, just as with the fire, you need to keep appropriate distance from the fool, not too near and not too far. 5. You can associate with a fool only the case that you are sure you have the capability and steadfastness to help them. Jumping into the water to save a drowning person is only sensible if you are able to swim. Otherwise, you get two drowning people. Whether you can really help a fool or not depends on whether your own virtue is sufficient steadfast to allow you to help them unscathed. If you are not yet sufficiently steadfast, then keep your distance, even if they are your own relatives. If you come across a friend who takes no heed of your warnings, however many times you might tell him, you have to resign yourself to helping him out. Instead, when the suffering from their own mistakes starts sinking in, when the circumstance makes him a little more ready to listen. However, if he is not such a bad guy, and you are able to make some impression on him, then try to help him. Try to keep him from going under. It's not that you should be hard-hearted, but you have to know our own limits. And if helping a fool is beyond your capability, you have to withdraw our help and keep our distance in order to survive. Then how can we interact without transaction with the fool? They may summarize the functions of association as twofold. Others may summarize association as a pathway as follows: joining, receiving, and giving. By joining means eating, sleeping, and investigating together. Receiving means taking someone on as one's spouse, one's child, one's employee, or as one's extended family. The point where we start to associate with them is the point when we take them on. Giving means that after joining them and taking them on, we give something to them. Such giving includes giving them consideration, praise, encouragement, lodging, food, or payment. All of these are included in the definition of association. If you are associating with fools on any of these three levels, you should be warned to withdraw yourself before sustaining any further damage. But there are varieties of the fool though. Some people think that they already have enough direction to choose their friends and thus overlook the importance of the first blessing. In fact, even though we may have experienced and as adults there is a fool with whom we have associated cautiously throughout our life, that is our inner fool. In conclusion, there are two different types of fool in the world: the fool in the outside world and the inner fool. The inner fool is the little devil that seems all too ready to justify your doing the things for which you should know better. They are the erroneous discretion that creep into our heads, and it is our task to put an end to the arising of such fools in our mind. Further to the temptation to be complacent about our ability to recognize fools, it should be added that parents have a special responsibility to their exemplar sensitive children to be cautious about the sort of friends they associate with, and even to choose a school and teacher for their children to help them to avoid associating with fools. This subject will be discussed in more detail in the Blessing 13. Nevertheless, a little extra attention on this front right from the beginning of our study of the blessing can help to ensure a bright future for them, preventing tears when it's too late to reverse the problem, like drug addictions. Now we know how to avoid the influence of fools in our life. In the next episode, we will continue with the example stories that will be helping us understand more further about the influence of the fool. So stay tuned and see you again in the next episode.